All right, guys. Now, when it comes to sitting down with it, how many times have you been a benefit counselor, been sitting there, and they walk in and go, I'm not interested, right? Happens all the time. Just like I teach the openers, you need to have a discovery. Set up, ready, and questions in your mind to ask every time you sit down with a client. You should have your discovery sheet ready to fill out and going through. And so in the parts of it, if somebody walked in and said, I'm not interested, I just want to sign, what do you say? How many people you hand it out? A great thing to always ask is ask things that really it's kind of hard to say no to. If you were sick or injured and couldn't work for up to 30 days or up to 6 months, would that create a financial burden on your family? How many people can say no? Say, well, that's kind of what I'm talking to you about today. So do you know you're saying no to that? In the discovery, when I went through it, as you could tell, one of the things that I want you to remember is very important about all this is knowing these questions and asking all of them, because that's getting them to say yes. You want them to say yes, and you want them to start seeing and they're building the need as you go of what it is you're going to bring to the table. And it's also giving you the tool to build a line out to know what you've got. Next, and what's real important you'll hear me say over and over is, if I could, would you? The if I could, would you technique is something you really need to get in your vocabulary. So when I ask, yeah, and they say, yeah, if I was out of work for that long, we couldn't maintain. So if there was a way that I could fit in your budget, a way that you could make sure that would never happen, would you be interested? They're going to say yes. If you say yes, you're building your arsenal. Don't start selling in the product right then. Go through your questions. Have anyone in your family been diagnosed directly affected with cancer? If so, how did it affect them financially? It was tough. If I could make sure you never had to go through that, would you be interested? You're getting them to say yes. If I could, would you? Getting them to say yes and getting them to see the need themselves. Now, one of the things to kind of talk about whenever I start off with the discovery, though, I always tell them, look, I'm fixing to ask you a couple questions because I just want to make sure that we have anything that I can do for you because I don't want to waste your time. When you do that, you're letting their guard down pretty quick, okay? But going through your discovery questions, learn the if I could, would you technique, you're going to hugely increase your sales because you're getting them to say yes and going ahead and buying in. Now, the other thing is whenever you're putting their information in, that's when you're slowly asking those questions as you're putting their information in the computer, etc. This little 4 square. This right here is hugely valuable because of this. We sell an intangible product. I think we would all agree tangible products are easier to sell. An intangible one is more difficult. This right here helps bring to light a little bit more of making the product more tangible. Okay? These are things that they can relate to. They don't, critical illness 1.0 and group medical bridge, they don't pertain to that, but hospital bills, they do. A lifesaver for some insurance, yeah, they do. This money and protecting it, they do. That's what this does. And so what's important is when you put it out there and you have whenever you lay it down there and you ask them what's most important and what makes them lose the most sleep at night, it's very important to make sure you hand them the expo marker and let them mark on it. Why? Buying signals. Buying signals come from people touching. Okay? They touch something, they grab it, you know you have a buying signal. If they want it all, you haven't created a need yet. But once you do and people start touching and grabbing and marking, there's buying signals there. Okay? And what's important is when they tell you all three, as you're talking to them, you're building up the products right then on your computer, right? They have these three and you're putting together a package for them. You already know top of the income they have, etc. You're building a package for them, right? And then as you're building that package, before you put the price down, that's when you go, now let me explain to you about how this product works, okay? This product, say you have a group medical bridge, short-term disability, and term life insurance. That's when you explain the product. When you get done explaining the product, then write it down because people see things very easily. Go, look, I can get you all three of these covered for only $31.86 a paycheck. All those products I just described to you, we can get them done now. Just initial here, and we'll move forward. Then be quiet. First one that talks loses. Be quiet. And if they go, well, I need to talk to my wife, I need to do all this. A lot of times, all these objections are purely because they're smoke screen and they don't really have the money to do it. Go, well, let me ask you a question. Do you need to talk to your wife because, make sure that she wants to do this? Or is this what you would be comfortable paying? Most of the time they go, they're not. Here's a quick thing to always pay attention. Don't go, well, let me see what I can do to take away from it. Ask them, how close to this number can you come that you would feel comfortable making that decision that your wife would be happy with knowing you got protected? Because if you had it at $32 and in your mind you're thinking that's too much or whatever it is, but you may come back with a product line of $15 when they would have told you, well, $23 a paycheck would be fine with me. So how close to this number can you come is a very great deal to do. So then once they say 23, you go on your deal. If you've got to get rid of one of them, they've already ranked to you their top 3 most important. So if you have to remove the third one to get into their price range, then you do that. Go, great news is I can take care of your first your number 1 and number 2 need. And only for $22.86 paycheck initial here, we're good to go. We got it in your budget. Congratulations. Be quiet. Then they say, well, then you got to start finding the real objection here. Okay? But how close to this number can I come? You start backing them down one by one as you have to. Okay? And you get through that 4 square and writing it out and having them initial it just as a deal there. And then you go straight into selling. Don't do the rest. Just go ahead, get it done, and move on from it. And one of the things that I did want to hit on whenever I did the discovery, one of the great ways and a great saying to kind of lighten the mood when you go from it to the 4 square is, hey, I just want to let you know, good thing is I found some needs where I can help you at, and it's only going to cost you about $140 a paycheck and we'll get it done. How many people, they're going to laugh their butts off, right? Like, whoa, what are you talking about? What am I doing when I say that? Couple things. Number 1, I'm lightening the mood, kind of getting the guard down. Number 2, I'm getting the amount of money they want to spend up in their head. Because I'm like, no big deal. It ain't going to be $140. It's going to be $120. Just joking with them. But you're getting the money built in their head of how much more that they could use. So if I could, would you, super important in the discovery, have the discovery questions down to a T. All right? And always be using, as you're going through that, use that icebreaker in the 4 square, have them grab, touch, and feel. And by you knowing the discovery questions, you being able to go back through it, you know where their needs are because you've already found it. You knew what lit them up the most. And a couple of selling languages to understand. Fair enough. Anytime you're asking the questions, go, will that work for you? Fair enough. Fair enough. Get used to using it. The if I could, would you, as we've talked about. And when you're overcoming an objection, when you have any of those, I understand exactly how you feel. Many of my clients have felt the exact same way. However, what I've showed them is, boom, need to get that in your language. How close to this number can you come? Don't come up to a number yourself and think that that's what it is because in your mind that's what it would be because that's not always the case for them. So ask them how close to that number can they come before you give up the farm, right? And then the first one that talks loses. When you slide it over, say, initial this will move forward. Don't keep talking. Don't keep selling. Be quiet and let them get after it. And don't use the word cheap. Whatever you do, but it's better value for your money. This is a better value for your money. And then how to know buying signals is when they're touching and they're grabbing, they're buying. All right? So if they do it, don't let these smokescreen objections make you redo everything you've got because the truth is if they've been touching and grabbing, they're there to buy something. You've just got to find the real objection. Keep asking questions. And then when you've asked those discovery questions, part of the reason of the if I could, would you, okay? Let's say you get through it all, you thought you found their number, you've told them how close they come, they said $20, and then they're still not wanting to buy, they want to talk to somebody, okay? You go, well, what is the problem here? You told me. So let me ask you a question. Whenever I asked you if you could maintain your lifestyle 6 months, and you said you couldn't, but you told me you would be interested if I could show you a way to do that, right? And then you said that your mom's cousin had cancer and it killed him financially, and I told you that if I could find a way to fit in your budget and cover that, then you'd be interested, right? So let me just ask you a question before we part today is, if I've showed you that and you told me that this number was in your budget, what's the real reason you're not wanting to move forward today? And be quiet because the real objection will come out. And so when you're asking those discovery questions, that's building your arsenal. Then you have your bullets to come back at the very end. If you're not able to get them, you're going, look, You told me you would be interested if I could do these things. That's why the "if I could, would you" comes into play and is such a huge part of it, because you're building your arsenal up, okay? So, I know it's quick. I hope some of these sales tips help. I hope you can find this as benefit as we've used it for a long time. It's worked for us. Thank you.